franktalks.com.
Welcome to another broadcast of the G.L. Henderson Radio Hour on the Artist First Radio Network. All past broadcasts are archived. You can pick them up at artistfirst.com. Here he is, the king of relationship drama, Mr. G.L. Henderson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the G.L. Henderson Radio Hour. Sorry we're a little behind, had some technical difficulties, but, you know, the great thing is that we're here. And we're going to have a great show. I'm not going to sell you short on your hour because we have such a great topic. And I know that a lot of you are tuning in because it's such a interesting, painful, and hurtful topic all in one. Whenever I do a show revolving around things of this type of subject matter, I think that it hits home to a lot of people. And so many people are affected by it. But we're going to kind of get into it somewhat. We won't be able to get the whole thing, out in such a short time frame. But we're going to hit on some of the topics here. Tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about infidelity. And I dubbed the show The Root of Marital Evil. It's almost like the same as money is the root of all evil. So it's like, infidelity is the root of marital evil. However you want to go into why there's infidelity or what caused it. Is it just someone's nature? Who knows? But despite their destructiveness, affairs are not going out of style. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. But not all affairs are alike, though. There's all different. Like I said before, some just sort of kind of happen, and then there's those that just part of someone's makeup, their chemical makeup, they just can't help it. From the outside looking in, it's almost insane, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. Why would someone want to do that? How could anyone, want to risk everything they have in life on a turn of a screw for a screw? And that was pun intended. But not all infidelities are about sex. So that leads me to two different subjects here, accidental affairs and romantic affairs. And my guest is going to help me. We're going to kind of tackle these things. But according to psychology today, an accidental affair is basically where both men and women can slip up and have an accidental affair through the most accident-prone, according to psychology today, are those who drink, those who travel, and those who don't get as much. So I guess they feel that they have to, it's like a challenge, at least the men, they find out as a challenge. And then you have the romantic affairs, where both genders seem equally capable of falling into the temporary insanity of romantic affairs through the women, as it's saying here, they are more likely to reframe anything they do as having been done before for love, or they're doing it for love. And I think women in love are far more aware of what they are doing and what the dangers might be, whereas men in love can be extraordinarily incautious and willing to give up everything. I mean, men, fall head over heels, at least for a while, and they just kind of want to give up everything for it. So those are the difference, and we're going to talk about that, accidental affairs, romantic affairs. And then we're going to talk about one of a situation that I know of that was from one of my listeners, and we're going to talk about their situation later on. But to help me get started with all this, I'm going to bring on my guest tonight, and he is not, unfamiliar to the show. I've had him on multiple times. He's an expert relationship and dating coach in private practice, helping singles, couples, and also coaches for the matchmaking industry. Frank is also a certified trauma counselor and an author of 15 books and over 20 audio MP3 lecture sets, which I'm sure those have multiplied by now. He has refined his skills and expertise over the last 15 plus years, developing and teaching his own original work based on his emotional needs analysis theories. So Frank is active in social media, print, radio, and television, and is a regular contributor and guest on multiple media sources, including mine. And so he's going to help me tackle my subject tonight, infidelity, the root of marital evil. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you, GL. Fabulous to be here.
Thank you so much for being back. Again, sorry about the technical difficulties, but we are here now, and we are going to tackle this infidelity thing. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm looking forward. Infidelity is a really great topic to discuss because it's such a sensitive issue. And anybody who's been involved in any act of infidelity, whether they were the person cheating or the person being cheated on, they're going to want to listen in tonight.
Now, the last show we had last month, we were, talking about the one couple who reached out and wanted to explore outside of their relationship and wanted to add another person into it. I haven't got a follow-up from them yet, so I don't know if that happened or have not happened. But I remember you were very adamant, last month about marriages staying together.
Yes,
working.
Absolutely.
How do your philosophy work with infidelity, like all outright infidelity?
Let me start off by saying that infidelity is often seen as a cause of many problems within a marriage. I look at infidelity as the symptom of what's wrong in a marriage. Most people think, well, somebody cheated, therefore they have problems. Those problems existed, whatever's at the source of that infidelity, those problems existed before the acts of infidelity took place. That's why if you look at infidelity as an effect, you look at infidelity as a symptom of what's actually wrong within the couple, it changes the dynamic, because it's not just the act of cheating, it's everything that precipitated it beforehand that led up to these acts of cheating. Once you understand that, once you can understand that, okay, look at infidelity as a sign of what's really wrong in the relationship and not what is actually wrong in the relationship, you're in a position where not only can you deal with the source, you can go ahead and save that relationship. Most people think that infidelity automatically leads to a divorce because, especially when you're with friends and somebody says, oh, my partner's cheated on me, the first reaction is what? Oh, you should leave the person. Okay, that's a natural gut reaction, an instinct reaction, a knee-jerk reaction, but is that what's really in your best interest? Is that what's really in the best interest of your children? Something that maybe you can work on, something that, and I'm not saying it's going to be an easy path to take, but are you going to be any happier living separate lives, sharing custody of the kids? The kids are getting less time with each parent. The kids, because they're being shifted back and forth into single-parent households, are much more susceptible to predators because that's one of the things they look for. They look for kids who are being neglected by the sheer lack of volume of time necessary to care for children. Do you really think you're going to be any happier? And trying to date as a single parent? Back up there, folks. It's not this wonderful, rosy ideal of, well, my life is going to be great afterwards. A lot of people end up walking into my office and saying, yeah, the people I dated afterwards, there was the same behavior problems, the same behavior patterns, and I maybe should have stayed with the first one and worked it out there. So if you look at infidelity as simply a symptom of what's actually wrong in the relationship and deal with those issues, the relationship, the marriage, can be saved. Infidelity does not have to automatically equal a separation or divorce.
Is there a point? Well, I'm sure there's always a point. Everybody kind of reaches their edge. And, a lot of people can't, save whatever. But do you think that technology and the easy access to things is making it so easy for people to just say, I'm done with this. I can now run over here and just get a divorce.
Here's what I think. Technology unto itself is not the problem. What I do think the problem is that more than ever before, people have an abundance of choice. They really don't have to stay if they don't want to. They can move on if they choose to. They have lots and lots of choice, but they don't necessarily have the life experience or the maturity to know what to do with that power of choice. And that's what's leading people to misery. Let's look at it through a different perspective. You're trying to figure out what type of career or job that you want for the rest of your life. You have unlimited choice. Well, with unlimited choice, and you're interested in multiple things, you're more likely to end up a jack of all trades. If, however, maybe you're not very good in a particular subject, or you're not very good at a particular type of study method, maybe you're not particularly good at taking tests and writing papers, but you're better in creating projects, that may dictate the type of career and education you go for. You have less choice. But in that less choice, you can be a little bit more secure and a little bit more focused about what you end up doing. And you can still have a happy life. You can still feel fulfilled. So with all of the technology available, and with that technology, there's technology available that helps enable affairs. Everything from online websites which encourage people to have an affair, to apps on a phone that you can assign specific ringtones for specific people that some people use so that they know who's calling them and knows whether or not they should take the call in present company. Let's be very mindful here. Even with all these advantages and opportunities to cheat, what makes a person cheat isn't everything happening outside the home. It's partly what's going on inside the home and what's going on inside the individuals within that couple.
So now when I was talking earlier, I was talking about the difference between the two types of affairs, the romantic and the accidental affairs. Is there really a such thing as an accidental?
What they talk about in terms of accidental affairs is that people are not necessarily aiming to have an affair, but they put themselves into situations where the possibility is increased. And in one of my programs called Making Monogamy Work, it's a 4-hour lecture that I sell, I talk about how the two main rules of monogamy are, number one, you only have sex with one person, and rule number two, you never do anything that would even potentially threaten rule number one. So when you're going out for drinks with somebody that, may be interested in you, and it's all harmless, well, it's not so harmless because you're putting yourself in a position where there's that potential for something to happen that you're not necessarily intending for it to happen, but you're putting yourself in that position. So if let's use a really bad example. This is a really extreme example. Somebody is really trying to cut down on their alcohol intake. We're not going to say they're an alcoholic, but somebody is simply trying to make healthier life choices. So they've decided, I'm going to limit my alcohol intake and I will only drink on specific days of the week. Well, if that person is on those other days of the week going out to bars, they're putting themselves in a position where they're going to be tempted to have alcohol. Nobody's forcing them. They may be even going to the bar with the intent of saying, well, okay, I'm going to go meet my friends at the bar, but just because they're having alcohol doesn't mean I have to have alcohol. But if someone is truly serious about limiting their alcohol intake, they wouldn't opt to go to the bar, even if it means having to sacrifice social time with their friends. And that's the issue. That's the issue with accidental affairs, so-called accidental affairs. You are going to have to limit certain behaviors and certain venues that you would frequent so that you don't end up being in a position where you will face temptation.
And I think that at least the way psychology today was trying to, I guess, making it seem like those who travel a lot, those who I guess don't get sex much often, or I guess they don't feel tightly married according to some of the things that they're saying, or they hang around buddies who screw around. They're more prone.
Look, all of those things can be a factor, which is why in the way I teach it, rule number 2 is you never do anything that could potentially threaten rule number 1. If you can hang out with friends who are unfaithful and not allow that to influence you, power to you. But if there's a chance that they may even start to influence you, this is where you have to make a choice before the temptation gets out of hand.
Right.
So, in those cases, if you truly believe in the monogamy of your relationship, that's when you have to make certain choices to say, well, I'm not going to put myself into those situations. Maybe a change of career. If being away from home is a temptation that you can't help but take part in. If some people use that as the reason, the excuse, as the source of the problem, well, maybe a career change. If that's the issue at hand.
Right.
I got some interesting statistics that I thought you might want to discuss. Okay?
I love statistics.
Okay, the first one comes from the Kinsey Institute, where they did a survey, and what they found was that between 20 and 21% of the people have experimented or have practiced consensual non-monogamy. Okay, so out of 100% of all the relationships out there, they have found that 20% are practicing consensual non-monogamy. They negotiate it, they date multiple people at the same time, they sometimes experiment sexually with multiple partners, but it's within that 20% cluster of the population. Let me cross-reference that with this organization called Marriage Builders, where they do lectures on infidelity. And what they say as a statistic, that 60% of all marriages experience some kind of infidelity. Which means that out of all the monogamous marriages out there, 60% are dealing with infidelity at some point. That if you are monogamous and faithful, you're in the minority. Now here's what I'm looking at. If 20% of the population practices non-monogamy, and therefore 80% does claim to aim to practice monogamy, and of those practicing monogamy, over 60% who are aiming for monogamy, for whatever reason, can't do it. We're dealing with a smaller percentage. 60% of 80 is 48. So that means, if I got my math correct, 32% of the couples out there are monogamous and actually stay monogamous. 48% try to be monogamous and experience infidelity at some point. And 20% of the population says, forget monogamy, we're going to just practice this and we're going to negotiate our sex lives.
So with those percentages, I mean, it's like, how do you, I don't know, like as going into a relationship, to expect that there's going to be infidelity. I mean, like the luck of the draw depends on what luck you fall on side of those percentages.
It's not about luck. It's about expectations and preparedness. If you want to have what's called an affair-proof marriage, you have to have realistic expectations. And the first expectation that people will fight and they will deny, and it causes a lot of heartbreak, is the expectation that my partner at some point, no matter how great and wonderful and hot I am, my partner is going to be tempted by someone else at some point in our life together. That's the first expectation that people have to deal with. It's not the expectation that the partner is going to cheat, but it's the expectation that, listen, I could be going to the gym every day, have a hot body, learn better sexual techniques, meet my partner's emotional needs through and through. That's not going to change my partner's sexual orientation. If they're attracted to a certain type of people, they're going to continue that attraction whether or not they are completely fulfilled. They're going to be attracted to other people.
Right.
And that's the first, and that's just a realistic expectation. Not that, I expect my partner to cheat. I expect my partner to be attracted to other people throughout the course of the rest of their life. And that's the first thing people struggle with. Because they say, no, my partner should only be attracted to me. That's an intellectual construct. It doesn't work in the real world. Yes, your partner is going to be attracted to other people no matter how much they love you and no matter how great you are, the same way, whether you want to admit it or not, you will find other people attractive. As great as your partner is, as much as you love your partner, you will find other people attractive. You will be able to look at somebody, whether it's in a magazine, on the street corner, or a friend of a friend at a party. You will be able to say, that person's very attractive. That person, through conversation, through connection, there's something about that person that moves me inside, that I'm responding to. If you can understand that realistic expectation, if you can accept that, you're well on your way to building a marriage that is affair-proof. Because you're just accepting the fact that that's the reality. The reality is people are going to continue to be attracted to a wide variety of new people, even if they completely love their partners. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's the people who are in absolute denial of it. They're the ones that will forbid conversations that are necessary to keep a couple monogamous. So
go
ahead.
It's out there. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, I'll give you just a quick example here, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Two people, they're in a monogamous marriage. One of them starts to have feelings for someone else outside of the marriage, whether it's just feelings of physical nature, they're really turned on by someone, or they're having some kind of romantic feelings starting to develop. They need to go to their partner and be able to say, look, I just need you to know something here. I'm really turned on by that other person. If someone is in denial, no, you can't be turned on by someone. It's only got to be me. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think the partner is going to say, well, of course I can go to my partner and be honest with this? No, they're going to say, I better shut my mouth because my partner can't handle the truth. And that code of silence is where the infidelity will take root. It grows from that point. It is the couple that says, okay, well, let's talk about it. What is it you're feeling? Why are you feeling that? Where do you think it's coming from? And maybe they'll take some actions. Some of the actions could be, maybe we shouldn't hang out with that other couple for as long as you have these feelings of attraction. Maybe we need to cut some friendships. Maybe we should put some distance here. Or maybe I'm okay that my partner has these feelings because when my partner has these feelings, we've agreed that my partner is going to use up those feelings with me. There's a wide variety of things that people can do. But if you're not prepared to deal with that realistic expectation, that is the first sign that infidelity will strike. Because they're just not willing to deal with the reality that no matter how much people are in love and having great sex and being totally satisfied, they're still going to find attraction in others. So that's the first issue.
And it's so funny, Frank, because I think that sometimes it's just the simple things and which is these things that people put into these unrealistic situations, which I totally agree with the fact that, we have eyes and we're going to look, a man is going to look and especially now, I mean, God bless women. I love them to death. But some of the things that they're wearing is just, even the Pope going to have to look. You know what I mean? Like, it's just can't help it. It's just virtually impossible that the law of attraction is going to be there. In my job, I remember a few days ago, a young lady was sitting there, and she, African-American female, but she had dyed her hair blonde. And I said, oh, wow, is everybody over there now dyeing their hair blonde? And she was like, no, my husband likes blonde hair. So, and well, she said this man I'm married to, she didn't say her husband, she said this man I'm married to loves blonde hair. So she went and dyed her hair blonde for whatever apparent reason. It looked crazy as all get out on her head. So automatically I thought that, wow, he is going to be attracted to all the blonde-haired people that passes him or he comes in encounter with, because apparently that is what he's drawn to. Now, if he acts on that, that's on him, but she is knowing right off the bat that he has an attraction based upon a certain style or a certain type.
Mm-hmm. And not only does she know about it, but she's working with it. She says, my guy likes blonde hair, so I'm going to have some blonde hair too. And don't think that he's not responding to that. He's responding to the fact that he can be honest about it with her. She's okay with it, and she's even doing something that she thinks is going to make him happy. She's a smart woman. And let's go one quick step further here. Deal with the expectation that, look, there are some people who go into a relationship saying, I have the expectation that my partner is going to cheat. I have the expectation that there are going to be times when whatever it is that my partner needs, they won't be able to get it from me. And it's those type of realistic attitudes that actually help relationships survive. That's not to say that they're happy about the situation, but they look at it from a realistic perspective. Is the fact that my partner is going to cheat on me a reason that I should disrupt my household, make it impossible for any of us to retire early, have to break up all of the family holidays that we're going to have together? Is it worth that? Some people have gone through that and they just take a very different perspective on it. And sometimes, and I'm not advocating this for all couples, okay, because there are some people that can't get beyond it. The same way that there are some people that monogamy really is the only way for them, and there are some people that monogamy just does not work for them, there is a population of people that simply cannot get over being cheated on. And that's okay. Okay, it's okay to be in that population. It's okay to say, I'm one of those people that I can't get over being cheated on. So you're going to have to modify your expectations differently, and the modification is you have to meet up and be with a partner who agrees with you that infidelity is the worst possible thing that could happen, and therefore is going to live by a certain code, a certain lifestyle, where the possibility of infidelity becomes near zero. That can include things like, I'm only going to marry someone who gives me full access and all passwords to every account, social media account, phone, and whatnot. Some people's attitude is, no, that's my privacy, and others will say, it's my life partner. This is a way for us to maintain the integrity of our monogamy. I have all my partner's passwords. My partner has all of my passwords. That's it. That's all. There was I can't remember who it was. It was a televangelist. It was a religious leader. He had a particular rule that he was never to be alone in a room with a woman that wasn't his wife. I mean, he was very strict about that. So that if he was in a room at a function or something and he realized, wait a minute, I'm in a room, everybody's left, and it's just me and this other woman, and she's not my wife. Whatever he was doing, he would exit the room or he would call somebody else into the room. That was his rule. Never allowed that to happen, and he expected, from what I understand, he expected the same behavior from his wife. That was their way of helping to maintain the consistency of their monogamy.
Right. And who knows, what a person's weaknesses are, and no matter who we are and what we have in life, we all have a weakness.
I would look at it as they may have a fetish for something. They may have what you would call a weakness for something. But just because they're weak for something doesn't automatically mean they're going to give in. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Nobody starts an affair just because it happened. There was something going on ahead of that. Whether it's a basic lack of maturity, a lack of life experience, not understanding the consequences of behavior. Maybe there was a repeating behavior pattern of someone always taking liberties in other areas of life. Maybe it's a matter of they're missing something in the relationship. There's an emotional need that's not being met from their primary partner, and so they seek out an affair not for the sex, but the sex is a trade-off to get the other emotional needs met. So it could be a variety of things. Like most people think, well, affair, it's because it's for the sex, right? Not necessarily. Sometimes the person wants a different emotional need met, and the sex becomes the barter. It becomes the trade-off. Well, if I want this other emotional need met, I will have sex with the person, and that way I get my emotional need met, plus I'm getting some sex, but it's not the sex that draws me out to begin with.
Right. All right, before we, running down on time, give everybody your website and all that good stuff, Frank.
Okay, my website is franktalks.com, FrankTalks.com. And if you go there, once this show is up, we're going to have a sale on the program of Making Monogamy Work. We're probably also going to have a sale on the Alternative Relationship Choices, the Guide to Non-Monogamy for people who want to explore ethical non-monogamy. We'll probably have a sale on that too. Currently on sale on the site as well is the audio version of my autobiography. So you can find out exactly how I went from loser to seducer and how I entered this field. So that's what's happening at my website. I'm available for one-on-one coaching. I coach couples over Skype as well. I can make things happen for you if you allow me to help you do it.
And I co-sign and I agree. Now, Frank, I'm going to read you one of the subjects from one of my listeners, and then let's get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Okay. So it's a couple. They've been married over 18 plus years. They have two young boys. They're in junior high. The husband is well off, does well to do. He's been carrying on an affair. He's actually a partner in the business, so he is the employer. He's been carrying on an affair with an employee, and it's believed to have been going on for some years, some time. All right. The wife suspected, of course, that something wasn't right. One day she had found a rental agreement, and apparently the husband had rented this employee an apartment, put it in his name. He got caught. He confessed with, yes, he had an affair with her, whatever. The people at the job found out, his other partners found out. She quit her job, but I think they, found her another job somewhere else, I guess, so they wouldn't get sued. And he agreed.
I have a question. I have a question. Was he paying for her apartment because it was a way to keep the affair going, or was it that they had the affair, stopped the affair, and then he got her an apartment because he didn't want her to talk about it?
No, he was paying for it. And I think she was married, and I think she was under the impression that he was going to leave his wife and she was going to leave her husband.
Wow.
So she found the lease, and it was going on. So he was paying for the apartment, and he was paying for it. Then she found out. So this was going on, and so he made her, made the husband violate the lease and terminate it. She had to move out of the apartment. I think she went back to her husband. And he confessed and, didn't know what he was thinking and, whatever. So this was going on for years, and it probably would still be going on had she not found the lease. Mm-hmm. And
which
so
I mean, if that had been going on for years, that's a pretty good sign that it was never his intent to leave his wife. Generally speaking, if someone is looking to leave a partner, it has nothing to do with whether or not they're already involved with someone else. If someone is intent on leaving a partner, they're intent on leaving a partner, whether or not they have someone else. So if this has been going on for years, it doesn't sound to me that he has any intent to leave his wife. And the same thing goes for the woman involved. If they may have told themselves that to make themselves feel better. People can lie to themselves. Denial is a big, big role in the world of infidelity. But if they have been going on that long, my guess is, as you said, they would have continued going on, but leaving their primary partners was simply not an option. It's a wonderful fantasy, though.
And that's, and I'll finish. So they broke it off and they went to counseling. So after counseling, it wasn't supposed to happen again. And, he is an impatient guy, and I think he just expected his wife to jump back into having sex with him and all this other stuff. And so she called me up, probably a few months later, 3, 4, maybe 5 months later, and she got a call at work. And she, went back to work. She was a stay-at-home mom, and she started getting her life together and wanted to go back to work. So she went back to work and got a call at work and said that her husband was being seen in the parking deck, with this female,
oh boy.
the same female. So he then went back to the female and having sexual activities going on in the car in the parking lot, and he confessed to all that again. And
was it a different woman or the same woman?
No, same woman.
Same woman. Wow. Okay.
Same woman. And now the wife has to go to this building every now and then because they're all in the medical field, and she has to run across this woman. So now she's contemplating, divorce. And
well, the question is she going to be any happier being divorced with a couple of kids in junior high and not being able to see her kids half the time for holidays and such? I'm not trying to downplay her situation. It's not a good situation for anybody involved, especially those kids. What I'm saying is when people are contemplating divorce, they really, really need to get a sober moment, because wanting a divorce is a very emotional decision, but it's a decision that's best made when you're at your most emotional sober, because people have no idea, and I'm coaching people right now going through the divorce process. And your lawyer will tell you, well, it's only going to cost you, $20,000 and then it'll be done. And it turns out that, oh, well, so-and-so wants a meeting that we didn't anticipate. So you go in for a meeting that gives nothing. And after 3 hours, and you're paying for those 3 hours, by the way, after a 3-hour meeting that, well, we heard them out. Well, okay, we heard them out, but nothing got decided. Well, there's nothing we can do about that, but you're going to have to pay for our time. Once it gets in the hands of the lawyers and then the court says, well, we need more time to prepare for this trial, and we can only bring up this type of evidence. And the evidence you presented, yes, it is significant, but not towards this thing, and I'm the judge, and I'm deciding that this other bit of evidence is more important and relevant. Or we have just too much to go through, and you have to pick and choose what evidence you want to present. It's a mess. It's a mess. And regardless of what they say about you have a right to a speedy trial, speedy is a relative word, because you might end up in a situation where you get told, okay, your next court date is in 9 months from now. It's going into the new year. So you have to wait 9 months with the status quo of the misery you're in before you get that court date. And nothing gets resolved quickly. You want it to be resolved quickly, you resolve it yourself between you and your partner and an arbitrator, and you don't go to court. So think about this, have a sober moment before anybody contemplates divorce. It is a nasty process, and it only gets worse because it's difficult to move on emotionally from that point, because you're stuck there waiting for everybody else who you have to pay to go on a certain timetable that really doesn't factor you in.
Right.
Getting back to this couple, I did see one statistic that said people who are wealthy are 11% more likely to commit an affair. And that's because the money affords them opportunities that a poor person could not afford. In the case of this man you're describing, he could afford an apartment for him and his mistress to meet up at. So looking at that, I guess the question is this a behavior pattern that existed before he got married? Did he cheat on past girlfriends? Has he always been open to the idea of having two lovers on an ongoing basis? Because it sounds like this was a long-term ongoing affair.
Right.
Was there certain things that his wife was not prepared to satisfy him on? Maybe they like different things. Or maybe, and again, I'm looking at this from all different avenues because I don't know this couple. But if I was coaching them, these are the questions I would be asking. Is there something that he held off out of respect for his wife? You know, something that he really wanted to do, but because, well, she's my wife, I have to show her respect. There's no way that I'm going to ever do certain things to her, but it's something that he wants to do. It's something he physically responds to, so he gets that from his side lover. And is she aware that the reason he never brought this up with her is because he's legitimately trying to make her feel respected? I coached one couple once where when they were dating in the bedroom, he was very masculine. He was very take charge. He was very assertive. And there were things that they did while they were dating that she loved. But once they became married, everything for him changed. And he says, well, I can't do those things with her anymore. She's my wife. I'm not even turned on by her in the same way anymore. She's a wife. She's mother of my children. And I'm not comfortable pulling her hair anymore or giving her a spanking or saying certain things in the heat of a moment that when we were dating, we just loved it and got us off. But now, no, you don't do that with someone you love or are married to. Was there any of that going on?
That I don't know. I know that he's from what I gather, he's not a very easy person to communicate with. Especially when he was the big breadwinner, she was the stay-at-home mom.
Well, was there something in that dynamic that he felt unappreciated? And this is not a generalized term. I don't want to make it sound like all women who are at home, don't show proper appreciation to their breadwinning husbands. But it is possible that while he's working the long hours, while he's, building his career, he's not feeling fully appreciated for all the sacrifices he's making to be away from home and being able to provide a home in that lifestyle. And is he getting a sense of appreciation from his side lover that fulfills him? And, well, sex is part of the deal, but he's going to her for that appreciation. So, I mean, there's so many questions to ask about all the things that led up to that. You're telling me that this guy is very difficult to communicate with. Well, if she knew that 18, 20 years ago, she made the choice to marry someone who's difficult to communicate with. This is one of the consequences of being with someone that you can't communicate with. You want to build a divorce-proof marriage. You want to build an affair-proof marriage. You got to be able to communicate with one another. And if there's a problem communicating, if you can't connect on that basic level, that's the real core issue. And the affair is a symptom of that as a core issue. Again, I don't know for sure with this couple, but these are the areas that I would be looking at.
Right.
Now, when she found out about the first affair, usually people who are caught in an affair and they immediately cut off their side lover as a means to try and reconcile, the loss of the side lover evokes a period of mourning for the person who was cheating, which means if I caught my partner cheating and I told my partner, that's it, you can't see your lover anymore, I have to be realistic and have the expectation that my partner, for the next few days, maybe even a few weeks, is going to go through a period of mourning, losing all the things that affair brought to that person.
Right.
So let's say it's the issue of appreciation as an example. So the guy got caught cheating, gives up his side lover, and now is dealing with the lack of appreciation, which was the main focus as to why he went to that affair to begin with. He's not going to be in a happy mood. And if the genders were reversed and it's a woman giving up her side lover and she's not getting that particular emotional need met anymore, she's not going to be a happy camper either. So the person who's been cheated on is going to have to take a role of compassion here, saying, okay, you did what I asked, you dropped the lover, and I know you're going through a period of mourning, so I'm going to have to be compassionate about that. At the same time, that person who was cheated on has to say, well, what are the emotional needs of my partner that I was not meeting before that I have to start meeting now? Because if we're going to work on this, I have to put my ego aside for a second. I have to acknowledge that if I want my partner to change their behavior, and I'm not dealing with, assuming I'm not dealing with someone who's mentally ill, with someone who's a narcissist or something, if I'm dealing with a human being who did something, they feel remorse about what they did, they're legitimately looking to make a change, well, I got to do my part to help them make that change. I got to be giving even if I don't feel like being giving, because they did not commit that behavior in a vacuum. They committed that behavior because there was something maybe they don't even know, maybe they themselves cannot articulate it. But did I create an environment where they could at least sit me down and explore the topic without me freaking out?
Yeah.
So I always look at it as, this is not a thing where, well, the person who cheated has to, be fixed. No. The affair is a symptom of the relationship, not of the individual. And I know that's very controversial. It's not going to win me any fans, but I didn't build a career looking for fans. I built a career doing the right thing.
And sometimes, frank reality and the truth, hurts, and it is what it is, and I'm the same way. It's reality and it's truth, and it hurts.
Yeah.
There's nothing, easy to say about, being caught up in affairs or whether you the cheater or the cheated. that is like, even with this individual, it's, she hasn't jumped to make any decisions or rushed out anyway. Everybody around her is telling her, "You stupid, you should leave." But she hasn't. She hasn't, made any moves or any decisions. And I think that she's actually doing what you said, was to just kind of
assess. She needs to assess her situation.
Right.
And if I could speak to her directly, if she's listening to this, and I want to say, Miss, I want you to remember something. All those people who are giving you advice, not one of them is going to have to suffer the consequences of your decisions. Whether you decide to stay and work on it, or whether you decide to walk away and try to start a new life, all those people who are cheering you on in either direction, not one of them is going to give a damn about you when you can't pay your rent. Not one of them is going to give a damn about you when your kids are sick. Not one of them is going to give a damn about you when you're suffering the consequences, good or bad, of any decision you're about to make. So as much as, yes, it's wonderful to have a support pushing you in either direction, just remember, they don't suffer the consequences of your choices. You do. Just take that into account whenever they tell you, "Oh, just do this," because they're not the ones who are living it.
Exactly. And I think that she is along that route of to what you're saying. They went to counseling again. But I think that maybe, to have discussions, with people who are not in the community, who, aren't a part of the mutual, friendship, that they travel, especially in that professional realm, being, his profession, a more clinical profession. So I think that to have an outside entity, outside of that community to discuss, matters with.
Whenever any of their colleagues are trying to get more involved, the best thing that she and he can do and say to those colleagues is, "We're working on it. Please stay out of it." Because the more people you involve, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah, and I think that she's at that point of just not speaking about it, whereas I think the first time it was, the anger, the quick to...
Of course. It's the knee-jerk reaction, and it's natural. It's natural to want to scream it at the top of your lungs and shame your partner and guilt your partner and try to get some form of revenge. Well, that might feel good in the moment, but it sure as hell is not going to make a wonderful family life for the children that you're raising in that environment. You're there to set an example for the kids that they don't care about what you're saying. They are going to emulate what you do. You can tell a kid all you want, "Don't do drugs, don't drink. Don't do drugs, don't drink. Don't do drugs, don't drink." But if you're having a beer every weekend and you boast about how in your youth you did a lot of drugs, what do you think is going to happen? Your kids are going to go out and experiment with drugs and drink, just like mom and dad. So grow up, people. It's not about you anymore. And as hurt as you are, guess what? You signed on to be a parent, and it is going to hurt. So you find another way to work it out. Whether you redefine the relationship, possibly make it a non-monogamous relationship, you look at what your expectations were and how you're going to have to modify it. It may very well be possible that this guy, in the case you've given, maybe he's addicted to the affair. Not necessarily the woman that he's having an affair with, but he's addicted to the taboo, the naughtiness, feeling like he's getting away with something, the thrill of the secrecy. It could be a variety of things. He could be so addicted to it that she's going to have to change her expectation, and that is he's just not capable of functioning in a monogamous relationship. But she still has a choice. Is she going to work with that realization? Is she going to work with that new expectation? Or is she going to say, "I don't want to have to deal with it. I don't want to have to work with it. I'm done. I'm moving on." Either way is fine. But whatever direction she has to take, she has to make that choice when she's emotionally sober. And then if she does walk away, it has to be to the point where she really feels that she has tried everything. People who have closure reach that point of closure when they can trust themselves not to make the same mistakes in the past that they've already made.
Right.
You only get to that point when you try absolutely everything to make something work. And if it still doesn't work, then you can walk away with a clear conscience and you won't be hooked on an ex for the rest of your life. When I work with people who, let's say, got really heartbroken, and I have to coach them through the point where sometimes they have to get back their ex and try to make it work once they have new social skills, new relationships management skills. And if it still doesn't work, at least they know they tried, and that's where they find their closure. Some people are just stuck. They have that broken heart. They're in that grieving process, and they need help with that. I can help them with that, but that's what it is. They got to reach a point where they can trust themselves not to make the mistakes of the past again. And if they can reach that point and it still doesn't work, they walk away with a clean conscience, and it never, ever poisons them again. That's what I had to do with my ex-fiancée when she ended up with my best friend. So I'm talking here about infidelity, and I want you to know I've suffered with it. Okay, I know what it's like to feel that level of betrayal. I was hooked on my ex-fiancée for nearly 7 years. And it wasn't until I went through my process of redemption, of self-forgiveness, of reaching the point where I could trust myself not to make the mistakes of the past that I was able to get over that relationship. Lucky for everybody, they don't have to go through 7 years like I did. I can get them there in a few months. But the point is, that's why I did the autobiography, so people understand my story. I know how gutting it feels. You feel empty and gutted, like you've shattered on the inside, because it attacks your core. You feel like it's an attack on your individuality and identity. If my partner goes to be with somebody else, that's a sign that I'm not good enough. I'm not loved enough. I'm a nothing. But that's not true. You are not a reflection of what people do to you. You're not a reflection of how your partner chooses to behave. Your identity is your own. And once you define for yourself who you are, it doesn't matter who calls you names. And you know how we talk about, in general, when you're walking down the street, you get catcalled, whether it's for your race or your size or your look. That is not what defines you as a human being. You define you as a human being.
Right.
The same thing when a partner cheats on you. Their act of infidelity, even though it feels like an attack on your identity, on your persona, it's something that they've done for themselves, something they've done to themselves. It's not an automatic sign of your worth or lack thereof.
Well, we're at the end of the show. Frank, give everybody your website again, and then give them a closing thought.
Okay, my website is franktalks.com. Loving relationships start with Frank Talks, franktalks.com. And my closing thought is this. Yes, an affair, going through infidelity, can be one of the worst experiences that you're ever going to have in your life. Is it worse than the death of a child? Is it worse than the loss of your mobility, the loss of a limb, the complete loss of your health? I don't think so. I mean, I was gutted pretty bad for 7 years. But as a parent now, as a different place in my life now, there's a lot worse things than your partner going off and doing something with someone else. You will survive it. You will get over it. It may take a couple of years for you to finally forgive the person and learn to trust the person again, and they have to work for that trust. In that time, there could be days where you are giving to your partner, making them coffee in the morning when you're still angry with them, but you're still going to make them coffee. It's not the end. It's a transition. And you can transition into a different kind of marriage. But it's not the end of your marriage unless you choose it to be.
And there you have it, everybody. We were talking about infidelity, the root of marital evil. And of course, we can't cover everything. We couldn't cover everything. It's such a broad topic that can go in so many different directions. But Frank, I want to thank you for giving us some insight on just scratching the surface of this topic, which can go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
I look forward to the day when I can come back on your show and we can discuss this again or discuss something else. It's really a great experience always speaking to you.
Appreciate it. And everybody, make sure you go to franktalks.com, and that's FARNKTALKS.com, and support it and actually reach out, for those who want some wonderful knowledge and insight. We don't have the answers, but, everything begins and starts with you. So, make sure you take a heavy look into it because, infidelity can have some big impacts on a marriage other than the obvious and sometimes more damaging than the loss of trust. And the long-lasting psychological effects for either partner along the legal ramifications that can occur during the divorce proceedings should make more spouses reluctant to have an affair. But as we all know, many mistakes we make in life, infidelity is the result of living too much in the moment at the expense of future consequences. So think twice before you get into it, and think even more twice, that's even a word, when you're trying to think about getting out of it. So there's a lot of thinking to be done when these things happen, but I think the best part is to probably just try not to get yourself in that situation in the first place. Other than that, on behalf of artistfirst.com, Z-Man, and the rest of the crew, I always say that you'll know when a relationship is right for you because when that person comes along, they'll compliment you, not complicate you.
From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at franktalks.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar. The Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit